illegal mining. The Interministerial Task Force Against Illegal Mining, led by the former Environment and Science Minister, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, ended in a dramatic manner, forcing him to resign his role as the chair of the committee. Let's take a look at the members of the committee that has been set up. So this is a 5-member ad hoc ministerial committee, and it includes National Security Minister Albert Kandapa, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources Samuel Abu Jinapo, the Minister of Defense Dominic Nitiwu, the Minister of Employment, Labour Relations and Pensions Ignatius Bafwewa, and the Minister of Information Fatimatu Abubakar. These are the members of the ad hoc committee the president has set up to look at the issue of Galamsey illegal mining in the country. Still on Galamsey, the Chinese ambassador to Ghana, Tong Defa, has charged the government to deal with Chinese nationals in Ghana engaging in illegal mining amid the country's worsening Galamsey crisis, which has devastated our water bodies and forest reserves. As Ghana seeks solutions, the Chinese ambassador to Ghana, Tong Defa, in an interaction with journalists, acknowledged that Chinese individuals are involved in the illicit practice, but emphasized that the Chinese government discourages such activities. He added that the government should prosecute any Chinese involved in illegal mining according to the laws of Ghana.
You have Galamsey. I learned this word when I came here. I had no idea. What's that word mean? There's no English wording, this one. So now I know it's a typical word in Ghana. So it's mean illegal mining. And the missions of the embassy, there are 2 missions. First one is promote bilateral relations. We want to, to do more things between our 2 countries, bring our 2 countries closer. The second one is, of course, we need to safeguard Chinese citizens here, nationals' legitimate rights. But there's one thing for sure. We always request Chinese citizens here to do things legally, to do things according to law and local laws and regulations, and even traditional customs. Like I know you have a lot of traditional customs. We ask Chinese, that's our way. We always, and I know there are some Chinese, not all Chinese, there are some Chinese, involved in this illegal mining, but we discourage them. We discourage them. And I follow, because I was accompanied President Akufo-Addo to Beijing. He even mentioned this. When he met our president last time in 2018, our president said to himself that if any Chinese committed any illegal things here in Ghana, you do according to your law. We support you do according to your law. So we discourage.
Joining us on the line is Deputy National Director of Arocha Ghana, Daryl Bosu, to have a conversation on this development. Good afternoon, Daryl.
Yes, good afternoon to
Thank you for
too.
joining us this afternoon.
It's a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Daryl, following our conversation yesterday, the president has set up an interministerial committee to address this Galamsey crisis. Does this come as a surprise to you?
Well, I need to say that we are not in any way amused by the responses that is coming from government, Minister of Lands, and even the Deputy Minister of Lands, Mrekuduka. So I think at the moment we feel that they are just quickly trying to water down the pressure that is coming and to more or less get people to stop really raising their voices. But I guess it's also part of the strategy. We think that it's nothing new. Whatever they are doing now is nothing new. We have a lot of questions as to how different it is going to be from what used to exist before, and all of that. I mean, the previous interministerial committee, there were some reports that were generated. The government work on it. You are setting up a new one. What is the transparency, accountability, and all of that. So there are a lot of questions, and that's why I'm saying that we are not amused at all, and we don't think that this is what we asked for, and this is not going to really deter us from putting forward the demands that, or trying to continue to demand what we put forward.
Right. Well, Daryl, the makeup of the committee has some stalwarts of the government. Do you think that this makeup will yield any fruit in the fight against Galamsey?
I'm not even going to say that we are in agreement with the setting up of the committee to even go in and to question who is on it and all of that. I mean, if we are going to do an interministerial committee again, it definitely has to be very different. If there's going to be any committee to supervise, because it is the same officers who have been in office, who have supervised the ongoing Galamsey, and the issues has come to a head, and to the extent that even the last minister from yesterday, people are saying that he should resign, and then he gets drafted into a new committee and all of that. It's not what we asked for. And so for us, it's not something we're even going to in terms of engage on. We are going to actually regroup and look at the responses that government is putting forward, and we also try to see how best to make sure that government does not derail the acts and the demands that we've put forward.
Well, Daryl, before you go, looking at your demands and looking at the government responses, would you say that the government is tone deaf to the demands of the Ghanaian people?
Well, I think they've rushed to make certain comments. For example, the Minister of Land saying that our ask for a state of emergency is draconian, which is not, and that is also far-reaching. There's been several instances, not the first time anywhere in the world, where Galamsey, inundated by Galamsey, they had to ensure that they do the right thing, so they actually declared a state of emergency in parts of the country where Galamsey was very prevalent, and it was done. They were able to address the issue. So I don't know what made the minister say it is draconian and it is far-reaching, and I think that has already gotten as instigated, and where most are saying that he should resign. So to a certain extent, we think that the government has not been very responsive. They are not really listening to the voices of the citizens, and that is where the problem is. I have said that, I mean, we've given them up to the end of September. There is still between now and the weekend for them to go back to the drawing table, revise and look critically at what we are asking, because everything we've asked is doable, it is possible, we can really rectify the situation, we can deal with it for as long as they themselves are committed to it. The only reason why they won't deal with it is because they don't want to solve the problem.
Well, Daryl, you go again. Apologies. The committee has lands, jobs, and things that matter to our economy on the committee being represented. When they come up with their reports, when they come out with their reports, are you looking at the committee tackling job creation for the youth that are in Galamsey? Because now we have so many people who find themselves in Galamsey, most of them being the youth. If there's a crackdown on Galamsey, that means that people are going to lose their livelihoods, their jobs. Are you expecting to see anything about jobs in the report that will come out of the committee that has been set up?
So we are saying that we find ourselves in a crisis, and whenever there's a crisis, your planning should look at the very immediate action you are going to take. Then you get on to the short term and even the medium and the long term. We need now, because of where we are, very immediate actions. And within this span where we are making our demands, it's not the time to really talk about job creation. It's about how to seize the illegal activity that is happening. So it is too early for us to be talking about the job creation opportunities and all of that. At the moment, we are calling for a state of emergency because of the crisis we find ourselves. So the kind of proposition that should be coming up is not about job creation. Yes, job creation is important, but those are things we need to start talking about within the short to medium and then in the long term. Right now, we need an immediate response to the crisis we are faced with, So I guess we'll be discussing the job creation thing on a more sustainable basis much later.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Daryl.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you too.
That was Daryl Arocha, Ghana. The Member of Parliament for Esunafo South, Eric Opoku, has criticized the government's ability to effectively tackle illegal mining. In an interview with ABC in the morning, the Member of Parliament criticized the government.
That is true. Cocoa Board estimates that over 100,000 hectares of our cocoa farmlands have been destroyed by illegal mining. But, my sister, you must understand that the Constitution of Ghana has detailed out specific duties that actors of democracy in this country should play. And it is the responsibility of the President of the Republic of Ghana, under Article 257 of the 1992 Constitution, to protect and preserve all mineral resources under the soil or on the soil, in the water or wherever within the boundaries of this country for the future generation. On the strength of this, His Excellency the President came to Parliament for Parliament to approve 300 million Ghana cedis for him to be able to fight the menace of Galamsey illegal mining in this country. That approval was made. 300 million Ghana cedis was released for that purpose. But still, the illegal mining activity is escalating. This clearly indicates that the President has woefully failed this nation in that fight. That is true. Cocoa Board estimates that over 100,000 hectares of our cocoa farmlands have been destroyed by illegal mining. But, my sister, you must understand that the Constitution of Ghana has detailed out.
Deputy Director of Elections for the National Democratic Congress, Dr. Rashid Tanko, has expressed distrust in the Electoral Commission, citing their refusal to provide the provisional voters register in a timely manner. In an interview with ABC News, Dr. Tanko alleged that the EC only released the register less than 24 hours before the exhibition exercise, and upon review, the NDC found discrepancies and tampering with the register, further fueling their demand for a forensic audit.
This EC cannot be trusted. When they started chaining out wrong figures during the limited registration, and we caught them, what was their response? We caught them. Since then, have they issued any figures again for you media people to see? We didn't stop there. The issue of this provisional register, when we started looking for the register and we followed them severally, they refused to give us a provisional register. They gave us the register less than 24 hours to exhibition exercise. And when we started scrutinizing the register, we realized that these people have caused damage to the register. Huge damage. And if not because of our eagle eyes, they would have messed up this country come December 7. We've realized that the register was bedeviled with, in fact, ghost. I'll describe it as ghost, because when you bring old transfers and add them up to the new transfers, that's ghost. You have created ghost names in the transfer by bloating the register.
Or let's go back to our Galamsey story. We want to speak again to Daryl before we let him go finally. Hello, Daryl. Thank you for joining us again, Daryl.
Sure.
As a stakeholder in this issue of our lands, the members of the Interministerial Committee are all cabinet members. Daryl, what will be your recommendations to them as they take a decision on this menace facing the country?
So I was trying not to comment on the composition of the committee. And what I would say is that this is not the kind of committee we want. And we would rather want very neutral civil society and labor members to be part of this. But if there's anything that they need to know, I think that is the issue. The fact is that they need to appreciate the devastation that Galamsey has caused upon Ghanaians and the communities, on our food system, on our water services and all of that, so that they can effectively be able to make propositions that will resolve the situation. If they're not coming from a position where they appreciate the issue, then we have the wrong people in the committee.
Okay. Thank you, Daryl.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So Daryl says that ideally they would have wanted a very neutral committee where CSOs were found on the committee. But if this is the committee the president has set up, this committee needs to appreciate the issues that we are facing as a menace of that, come up with very salient points that will help us as a country. Away from Galamsey, let's go back to our election stories. Deputy Director of Elections for the National Democratic Congress, Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer, has raised allegations against the Electoral Commission, accusing them of attempting to rig the upcoming elections through manipulation of the voter register. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Dr. Computer emphasized that despite these serious accusations, the NDC has chosen not to pursue legal action, but to rather rely on the power of the electorate.
What he was saying inside the press conference, and we are saying that we are ready for a demonstration on Tuesday, the whole country, all the 16 regions, simultaneously. This is the first time we are going to have that across the country. Districts, in fact, the districts are also joining. We are going to have massive demonstration. Let the world hear us. Somebody is trying to rig the election through the register. We are telling them that why is it that they are running away from the audit? Why are they running away from it? Let open up the book. Let bring an auditor, a forensic audit, to come and check.
Well,
and be sure that this register is now credible and can be used for purpose. We don't trust this issue. And that even when the audit is finished, it must be exhibited. Because this issue, they had a penchant of disturbing the...
Still on the issue of the voters register, the Movement for Change has expressed concern on the Electoral Commission's management of Ghana's voter register, questioning the transparency and integrity of the process. During an interview on ABC in the morning on Friday, 13th September 2024, Nanaya Sapong, the movement spokesperson, didn't hold back, questioning the EC's rejection of suggesting to conduct a forensic audit of the provisional voters register. Sapong pointed out the EC's lack of solutions, accusing the Commission of dismissing genuine concerns without offering viable alternatives.
You are rubbishing the proposals or prescriptions made by others. Then it means you're not being fair to Ghanaians. Once they have accepted that there are issues with the register, then they should propose means of making the register work for us all to believe and trust in it. Because that is the only tool we are using for these elections, the register, nothing more. But the question I have posed this morning on other networks is that, is the EC really in charge of the database? Is the EC the one holding the database? After next year, I remember there was another private company that was given the responsibility to handle or host our database. The issue comes up when EC has gone out to the field to work, to gather data, and they come back to their office, and then they would have to synchronize the data the EC has and that which that company is holding. It creates a lot.
Away from the Electoral Commission, the presidential candidate for the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, has promised the recruitment quota on all government recruitment processes for persons with disabilities. Addressing a gathering of party supporters in the Ladade-Kototbong constituency, the vice president stated that he will offer free tertiary education for persons with disabilities, as well as institute a quota on all government recruitments for persons with disabilities if elected president in the upcoming 2024 general elections.
And if you are a person with disabilities, you go to tertiary education for free. And if you finish tertiary education, we will have a quota for all government recruitment for persons with disabilities. So I want you to support me. I have never been president before. So if you vote for me, you are going to get a brand new tear rubber president of the Republic of Ghana.
Away from the NPP, Deputy Chairman of the Electoral Commission in charge of corporate services, Dr. Bosman Asari, has charged the media to call out politicians and all persons who make insightful comments in the run-up to the December elections. According to him, media pluralism in the country has given rise to easy dissemination of information as people continue to weaponize false narratives to shape public discourse.
They don't organ well for the smooth running of our society. It is the job of the media to name and shame these ones who have an objective of saying things to undermine. Because as I said, in 1994, it was some media organizations in Rwanda who were saying, oh, certain things were happening, and suddenly people took up arms and they decided to kill others. So if you are a media organization, you are covering the campaigns, once some people are making statements that they want to incite others, let's make sure that we bring them to order. The Global Peace Index, Ghana is one of the countries doing very, very well. So this is something as a country we must be committed to maintaining. The next way to also ensure that elections are peaceful as far as the media is concerned is to also interview politicians on their policies and manifestos. It's very, very important. Because usually when you listen to the politicians, they say a lot of things. But the media, you need to sit them down and engage them. All of us want to go to Tema. You want to use the motorway. Another person also wants to use the beach route. So explain it to us very well. So once those explanations are done, people begin to...
The flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, has emphasized that the government's delays in payments of nursing and teacher trainee allowances is a better option than a total cancellation of the allowance. Addressing a group of nurses during his tour of the Lejokuku constituency in Accra, the vice president told the nurses that while delay in payment in the allowances is a worrying situation, if they vote for the NDC's John Mahama, he will cancel the allowance in totality, which according to him is a bad option for the nurses. Away from the NPP and to the NDC, flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, has cast doubt over the policies of the NPP to create jobs. And backing on his campaign activities, Mr. Mahama questioned how the NPP will create jobs after failing to do the needful and increasing unemployment rates.
To provide decent and sustainable jobs for young people, and we need to do that urgently. Certainly, the current government has no panacea for youth unemployment because they've taken the unemployment rate from 8.4% to 14.7% in just 8 years. And so when they talk about creating 2 million jobs, you ask, where are those 2 million jobs? If unemployment has risen to 14.7%, then you can't have created 2.something million jobs. But we all know that this is a government that is used to propaganda. And unfortunately, when you propagandize, you must keep your propaganda from reality. Unfortunately for this government, they are lost in their propaganda because they believe it. And so they repeat it like a nursery rhyme. And they believe in everything that they say, even though on the ground the reality is different. The government's imposition of the betting tax, has been very unpopular with a lot of the young people. But we need to rationalize taxes. You cannot have a situation with so much confusion in the value-added taxes, where you have people in the same market charging different rates of VAT and selling the same items. And so when we come, we'll rationalize that so that it is uniform across, so that it's more predictable, it's more transparent, instead of the current complicated VAT regime.
President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has commissioned a $40 million bitumen processing plant in Tema. The plant, which has become the biggest bitumen processing terminal in Ghana, is a joint venture between Goyo Ghana Limited and Société Multinationale des Bitumes of Côte d'Ivoire. The initiative is expected to play a key role in the country's road construction sector and industrial growth and reduce the reliance on bitumen imports. At the inaugural ceremony, President Akufo-Addo underscored the significance of the partnership, saying that the project was a testament to what could be achieved if the sub-region pooled its resources and expertise together. He emphasized that the plant symbolized the strong ties between Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, noting that the collaboration exemplified the power of shared vision and resources within the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS. President Akufo-Addo said the facility would contribute to job creation and boost Ghana's export potential. Away from that, in a proactive move to address road safety concerns, the National Road Safety Authority of Ghana has introduced a new code aimed at curbing traffic fatalities, particularly during politically charged periods. Recognizing the increased risk of road accidents during election years, the National Road Safety Authority has brought together key stakeholders, including political parties, the executives, civil society organizations, the Ghana Police Service, and the Electoral Commission. The collaborative effort has resulted in the development of a comprehensive road safety code designed to be implemented throughout the political campaign season. The National Road Safety Authority is confident that adherence to this code will significantly reduce traffic-related deaths, which often surge during politically active times. By engaging with a wide range of political and civil actors, the National Road Safety Authority aims to foster a collective commitment to road safety. The new code reflects a concerted effort to ensure that road safety measures are enforced and that the anticipated increase in travel and public activity does not result in a rise in road traffic fatalities. We have joining us on the line Mrs. Pearl Adusu Satekla, the PRO of Staff, National Roads and Safety Authority. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, madam.
Thank you for joining us on ABC News GH.
You're welcome.
Well, you have brought up a new code, a code that should help us in these times and to reduce road traffic fatalities. Please tell us more on this.
All right, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. Listen to all your listeners. The road safety political has been existent since 2008. We found it just to revise it or review it with all the political activities here. And so together with all stakeholders, including the electoral commission, other political parties, to review it to few modern time. And so that is what we are working with hard. Because at our place, we realize that the attitude and the experience we started a very proud message when they are going out for campaign and how they should relate with the people or road people or conduct their activities during their campaigning period. Even not without the electoral commission, because they also play a very active role during this election year. They'll be going around their workers working throughout the district and the polling stations in the county. Also ensuring that they will behave well and not be reckless on the road, so as not to hide the already volatile situation in the country. This is why the National Road Safety Authority with our collaborators, NGOs that have OCC attached, have engaged the political parties. Currently, both of our managers or regional executives of the various political parties explaining the polls to them and how they will also help to reduce traffic in the country. This is what the current people.
Ma'am, how are you going to hold the various stakeholders, especially the political parties, to standard as they have come together to ensure that we reduce fatality on the road? Hello, Miss Adusu. Mrs. Pearl Adusu. Okay, so that was Mrs. Pearl Adusu Satekla. She is the PRO staff for the National Roads and Safety Authority. The Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, has announced October 22 and November 19, 2024 for its first and second presidential debates, respectively. IEA in a statement announced that it has scheduled 2 presidential debates, 1 vice presidential debate, and 5 evening encounters ahead of the December 7 polls. The vice presidential debate will also come off on November 5, 2024. The first out of the 5 evening encounters will happen on Wednesday, September 18, with the last expected to happen on Tuesday, October 15. The National Democratic Congress, NDC, has already stated that the party's flag bearer will not be part of the debate due to concerns raised over the credibility of the organizers. Away from that, let's take some business news. Economist at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Godfred Botman, has stated that the current economy being run by the Kufuor Bawumia is led by Galamsey activities in the country. Speaking on ABC in the morning on the drop in cocoa revenue, Professor Botman bemoaned that the drop in cocoa production and revenue is occasioned by the increase in Galamsey activities. However, the government is unable to fight the menace due to the money it makes from it. According to him, the Bank of Ghana is in bed with small-scale miners and Galamseyers under the gold for oil policy. Hence, the government's inability to fight the Galamsey menace.
The Galamsey economy, because that is where the money is. So if you follow the money, you see why it will be difficult for government to deal with Galamsey. Why am I saying so? So the bulk of the gold now, 40% or a little more than that, is coming from small-scale artisanal mining.
Yeah,
that's where the money is. Now you can understand why the central bank, working with politicians, have elevated gold for oil as a national policy. We have been buying gold as part of our reserve management, not today. Okay? And the fiscal side must recognize the independence of the central bank. This gold for oil is actually a bad arrangement between the fiscal and the monetary. And the whole thing is follow the money. We cannot.
Convener of aggrieved Gold Coast Fund customers, Charles Nyame, has stated that the government's approach to tackling the financial sector crisis is what has resulted in the locked up funds and the government's inability to pay customers of defunct financial institutions. His response follows the government's release of some 1.5 billion Ghana cedis to pay the customers of the defunct institutions. According to him, the government should have not collapsed the financial institutions to incur the cost and burden it has brought upon the customers. He added that the 1.5 billion Ghana cedis will not be enough to repay all customers.
That they resorted to. In fact, you see, when you look at this crisis that Ghana was plagued into, many countries, advanced countries, have had similar situation in the past, like the United States and the United Kingdom and what have you. You see, the government should have resorted to the approaches that some of these companies and some of these countries used to remedy the situation, because comparing those strategies to what the Ghana government executed, you realize that what the Ghana government opted for fell short to that of what these advanced countries resorted to. For instance, the government shouldn't have collapsed these companies to create all these crises in the first place. When you look at some of the approaches some of these advanced countries used, when the crisis came, these countries, leadership of these countries, just injected monies into these struggling institutions, and they appointed these institutions into new administration. You see, the government has argued that previous government injected money into these institutions and the management misused or misappropriated the money that was injected by the previous government. Yes, they misused it because you kept the same administration that was in place that brought the crisis in place when the government injected those funds into it. But in the advanced country, what they did is that after government injecting the money, or even before the government injected money into these institutions, those parent administration that brought the crisis were pushed aside, and the government appointed the companies into new administration and gave them a task to work with the monies that he has injected into the companies, so that they recover whatever losses that. So if Ghana government has resorted to that approach, three things would have happened. One, workers that lost their jobs from this financial cleanup exercise by closing the companies would have maintained their jobs. Two, customers wouldn't have gone through the stress that we have been through for the past 6 years that has ended many people losing their lives and their very livelihood. Three, monies that the government would have injected into these financial institutions would have been able to.
That's all for business news. Let's take some sports stories. In Wa is finally ready for commissioning 6 years after construction began. This comes after the National Youth Authority released funds to complete the second phase of the project. The construction firm in charge, Hapke Enterprise, has successfully delivered on several key components of the center, including an 8-lane athletics track, a FIFA standard football pitch, and seating for up to 5,000 spectators. Courts for tennis and basketball have also been completed. Work has stalled for nearly a year due to unpaid debts, but all outstanding payments have now been cleared. 13.3 million Ghana cedis has been spent so far, with a remaining balance to be paid after the final phase. Once commissioned, it will be the second youth resource center handed over following the Kufuor Sports Stadium completion last December. Let's take some international stories. Morocco has reported its first case of mpox in a man from Marrakesh, according to the health ministry. This case marks the country's first instance of the virus since the World Health Organization declared the current outbreak a public health emergency of international concern last month. This declaration came in response to the swift spread of a new variant or clade of the virus in Central Africa. The Moroccan authorities have not specified which variant the patient has contracted. The health ministry confirmed that the man is currently receiving treatment and is in stable condition. Still in international news, in his speech on Thursday, September 12, 2024, former President Donald Trump announced that he would not participate in another presidential debate against Vice President Kamala Harris. This comes after Harris called for another debate, arguing that voters deserve to see the candidates engage in a discussion on the issues. Harris herself stated that she believes the two candidates owe voters another debate, given the importance of the election. The two candidates faced off in their first debate on Tuesday, September 10, 2024. Trump cited his perceived victory in the initial debate, stating that Harris only wants a rematch because she clearly lost. He also claimed that Harris should focus on her job as vice president instead of seeking another debate.
2 nights ago, Donald Trump and I had our first debate. And I believe we owe it to the voters to have another debate. Because this election and what is at stake could not be more important.
So because we've done 2 debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate. It's too late anyway. The voting's already begun. You got to go out and vote. We got to vote. This is going to be the most important vote in the history of our country. It'll be the most important.
Finally, in international news, heavy flooding in northern Nigeria has devastated a state-run zoo, releasing deadly reptiles such as snakes and crocodiles into nearby communities. The Sanda Kayerimi Park Zoo in Borno State reported that over 80% of its animals had been killed by the floods, with many more washed away into surrounding neighborhoods. The zoo statement warned residents to take precautions as some deadly animals have been washed away into the community. The Alau Dam, located 20 kilometers southeast of Maiduguri, overflowed over the weekend, submerging entire houses and leaving swaths of the city underwater. The United Nations Refugee Agency described the flooding as the worst in Maiduguri in 30 years. While no human deaths have been confirmed in this specific event, more than 200 people have died in other floods across the country over the past few weeks. The floods have also displaced over 386,000 people, with northern Nigeria being the most affected region. That's all for international news. Let's take some entertainment news. Kofi Ansah, CEO of Ahodjo Farms and a chartered accountant, has earned 2 major awards in the space of 1 week. On August 30, he was named Ghana's most outstanding personality in agriculture at the Corporate Ghana Hall of Fame Awards held at the La Palm Royal Beach Hotel. This honor also inducted him into the Corporate Ghana Hall of Fame, a prestigious association of top CEOs and group chairmen. Just days later, on September 7, Ansah was awarded Best Personality in Agro-Processing at the 40 Under 40 Awards at the Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel. Both awards recognize his dedication to developing the agriculture sector and promoting best business practices. Ansah expressed gratitude to his family, staff, and supporters, stating, "This is double glory in just a week. I am very proud to be honored at such a great magnitude." That is all for entertainment news, and this brings us to the end of the news this afternoon. For more news, visit us on www.abcnewsgh.com. Interact with us on social media at abcnewsgh_. I am Abuna Manti. Have a good afternoon.